Hello and welcome to the Screen Chronicles. I'm Colby. With me as always is Steve Great Gob Kuzich.
You great gob.
Yeah, Great Gob.
You great
And
gob.
today we are coming at you Great Gobs with another Outlander episode here for season 2 of Outlander. What a season it was. We'll talk about it here in a second. But first, we appreciate all the support you guys have done. If you are interested in these videos, we hope you will subscribe and like our channel and our also our social media pages as well. All be linked below. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details, Steve, let's talk a little bit about how we like this season.
So if you're new to the channel, how we like to start out, we do a spoiler-free review discussion about it. So if you're on the fence about whether or not you should watch the show, listen to this part. And then after that, we're going to go into spoiler talk. We'll recap it, share our thoughts. We'll say a bunch of weird things. It'll be a great time.
Yeah, and tell us what you thought too, because we want to, it's a good show for discussion. Outlander's a great show for discussion, so we like to hear other people's ideas, so don't hesitate.
So yeah, we are talking about season 2 of Outlander, the show that is on Starz, premiered on Starz Network. You can watch the first 4 seasons on Netflix now. I think some other countries you can watch all 5, but anyway, first 4 on Netflix. You can watch all 5 on Starz. Yes, U.S. This is based off of Diana Gabaldon's book, Dragonfly and Amber, the second book in her Claire time traveler sort of series. Staying spoiler-free here. This season, I would say, is at times some of my favorite stuff happens in the season, and then sometimes a lot of my least favorite stuff happens in this season.
It's got its slow bits at times. I think this season takes a little bit to get going.
Yeah, just for a general, I like that we eventually get back to some of the things I was really interested in the first season, as far as some specific culture and some historical facts and cool things happening, as well as some of the big moments that have been sort of alluded to in the first season start to roll towards and happen. Some of the things I don't like were I'd say the season is almost divided in 2. Like,
yes,
I almost thought it was based off of 2 books when I was watching this. I was like, this is clearly where the first book ends, and then the second book,
which happens in Last Kingdom sometimes.
Which happens in Last Kingdom. But that's not the case. This is all one book. And I would say that the first half of the season, there was a lot of things that really frustrate me about a character that I really like and what they do. And I don't want to get into spoilers yet, but it's that person is very frustrating. What they do, why they do it, just makes no sense to me. Not a lick of sense. And it's just very frustrating. And I would say the first half too, it doesn't have all the things that I was interested in when I started the show. I'm sure a lot of other people really like this part, but I just wasn't. Yeah. But anyway, that's my sort of scoop there. What did you think, Colby?
I think it had a bit of a slower start to the season. I think, like you said, it alludes to some things, moving towards some things. A lot of this season is like almost a tease for one certain big event. It's like, come on, you want this? Come on, keep coming for it. But we'll talk about that in a second. Overall, there's some of the most memorable moments of the series in this season. I would say it's got one of the better action parts of the whole show. At one point we'll get to. There's also some of the absolute like Oscar-worthy acting moments in this season from Katrina Balfe. Overall, really like the season.
If you had to give it a number, what would you give it?
I'm going to go 7.5.
Mock me before this day is over. I will make a believer of you.
Some of it takes away from that score. Some of that stuff that you said we weren't so interested in. No less than 7 points.
I'm going to go say 8.
I see you have the heart of a true patriot.
Seems like I go 0.5 above you for Outlander. The first one, I was like, I'm going to add 0.5. If it continued on the path it was on at the beginning of the season, I probably would have been 7. But then the second half, if the whole season was like the second half of the show, I would have gave it probably a 9.
I think the second half was definitely 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
First half was more toward that, 6 or 7. So I think that's probably why I landed at my score.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of leaning towards an 8. And I'd say the first half still has bits that are worth watching. And if you were invested in the show from the first season, definitely continue on. Continue watching this season. Let us know what you thought of the show too here, and then we're gonna get into some spoiler territory.
Spoilers. So you have been alerted.
While we're here in spoiler territory, let me talk about the big thing that I didn't like, so I can just rant about it and get it done.
Get it off your chest. I know you're.
Big
it's
thing.
like,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Claire Bear. People, I started the hashtag Claire Bear. You heard it here first, and so I love her. But this season, she just pisses me off so much because she's normally very logical and thought out, but also empathetic, just awesome. And I love her pretty much any other time during the show. But like I was saying, this first half, especially the first half of this season, she's just so frustrating. I mean, the big thing is that happened to Jamie at the end of season 1 that, like I said, almost made me stop watching the show, was he got raped by Jack Randall forever. And tons of just fucked up ways just going on with that. And eventually they find out he's alive. He has a chance to kill him. And she's just like, no, because Frank. So if that alone was the deal, I'd be like, all right, she wears his ring. She still likes him. That makes some sense because apparently what it is that, we learned this in the first season. Blackjack Randall is the ancestor to Frank Randall. So if he dies, then hypothetically,
that's what Claire believes at this point.
This is what they found out, is that he's the ancestor, even though that turns out not to be the truth. But anyway, though, that's what she believes. So she doesn't want him to die, because she doesn't want Frank to Marty McFly away.
Right.
So
right.
That was still in itself was very frustrating to me, because I was like, all right, but you plan on being in this time. You would never, ever see Frank again. Your memory of Frank would still exist and would be just as real. Like you would not ever see him again. Like if you lived out your life in this time period, you would never, ever see him ever again. She does end up going back to the future. And we'll talk about how that sort of tricked us to at the beginning of the show. But when she goes back then to the future, goes back to her husband, she's just a complete bitch to him. And I don't say it to be mean to her. That's just, but if I was acting the same way she was, I would be being a bitch. He is so like trying to be accepting, trying to bring her back and start a relationship with her. And she's basically like, I have another man's child. And he's like, that's all right, I'll raise it. And she's like, you don't understand. I'm the worst. And just like constantly just like trying to like get him to just go away. And I'm like, I get it. She's confused, upset, all that stuff. But it just keeps going. And then eventually it leads to him being like, don't worry, I'll raise the child. You don't even have to touch me. Go at your own pace. I'm going to be the most understanding husband. And then
you got to leave that shit in the past.
Got to leave the rest of your shit in the past.
You got to bury that. Yeah. Because she had told him, she comes back pregnant. Mm-hmm. Right. And so he finds out, and it's kind of weird. Frank's first reaction is like happiness at first. And then he like puts two and two together, is like, wait a minute, it's not my kid.
Yeah. So it's Jamie's kid. And he still decides to raise the kid though. And he does raise the kid, Brianna. But she still is just completely cold to him. Yeah,
she was being really cold to him. Now I will argue one point that you made. I'm with Claire about not killing Blackjack Randall. You know what I mean? Like I know that. Like, listen, hold on. I know.
All right, I'll hear you out.
She's, she doesn't think she's going to see Frank again, but I don't think that means that she wants him to die in the future. You know what I mean? Or wants him to not exist. Morally, I can like agree with her kind of decision to try not to kill Blackjack Randall yet until he's, spawned a child. But
here's the thing.
I do agree with you. What?
Well, the thing is, so anyway, though, I reject all that because she, like I said, she doesn't even care when she goes back to see him.
I know.
She's
Well,
mean
that's
to
the
him.
confusing part. That's the confusing part.
She's
is like,
completely mean and cold to him.
and that's what frustrated me. And I would agree with you that I was kind of upset with Claire.
If she
about
went back to him and was at least warm but confused and trying to make it work, then I would understand.
Totally cold to him. Like,
she was cold, and if she wasn't being cold to him, she was being mean to him. Those are the only two things.
And it didn't really make sense to me at the time. And maybe somebody will comment like a good reason. Maybe there's like a psychological trauma reason or something, some reason why she was being cold to him in that moment. Well, I do know obviously he looks like Blackjack Randall, and I think that psychologically is playing into why she is like being very distant from him, because he looks exactly like this person who caused so much trauma in her life. So I think that's a big part of it. But you look at Frank's point of view. Frank was being a good husband. They went on vacation. She disappeared. He did not give up looking for her, even when everyone was like, she left you, man. You gotta, he loved her. And he is so happy that she's back,
Mm-hmm.
and he's being understanding. He's being, he's giving her time, and he's learning too that he needs to give her space, because of the way she reacted to him when he first came in. And you just feel for this guy because he's not really done anything wrong to her, and all of a sudden she is just being like that to him, and it's not like he did anything. So that's why I feel for him.
And you agree with me then? So you're agreeing with me?
No, I agree that Claire frustrated me. I don't agree that I don't think Claire should have just allowed Jamie to just kill Blackjack Randall willy-nilly. I don't agree there because at the time Claire thought that would make Frank's life disappear, and I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right for her to decide the fate of somebody, even if she didn't love him anymore. I don't think she could decide his fate like that. I think she's got to.
I can kind of see where you're coming from, but I mean, at the end of the day, she hates his guts, and then if she allowed him to kill him, then she wouldn't have to go back into the future, and then she would have just lived out the rest of her days in the past and never met him again. You know what I mean?
It's confusing because I think when she's in the past, it doesn't seem like she hates his guts.
I know.
It's just when she gets back. It's like when she gets back, and it's so frustrating. And I think maybe it's just yes, Blackjack Randall's face is Frank's face, so there's a lot of trauma there. But maybe it's just too, she just doesn't know how to handle this situation where she is madly in love with Jamie, and she is devastated she can't be with him, and that she thinks he probably died at this battle of Culloden. That, by the way, that's the tease all season, is that, and that's basically a big plot of the season, is that Claire basically tells Jamie, look, this is how you gonna die. This is how all your friends and family are going to die. That's fate. But maybe we can change fate. And that's kind of what they go to France. They try to find the Bonnie Prince Charles, to see if they can maybe talk him out of kind of helping that Jacobite rebellion rise up. And maybe the Battle of Culloden never happens, and then Jamie and Claire can live happily ever after. That's the plan of the season.
So that's the big frustrating thing for me, as far as from a character point of view. Claire doing that, it just makes no sense. And people in real life, people don't make sense. So
exactly.
So I get that, but when I'm watching a show with a character I
it's frustrating,
who just keeps doing things that just do not make sense, and as a logical character,
and I like Frank too. Yeah,
and I like Frank. So that's the one thing I don't like. And how you talked about that their mission was to get Bonnie Prince Charles Stewart to stop with the Jacobite rebellion, and that's why they went to France. So that's another thing as far as story-wise too that I did not like, because he said that was their plan. The plan does not work at all.
Well, it goes everything they try to do, it seems, in this show, and this might change later. I guess we could argue about it. Just like Bernard Cornwell says, fate is inexorable. You can't change fate, it seems, no matter how hard they try in this season to alter the course of history. And I think they probably do some things that are different, but ultimately it kind of finds its way back to the storyline, back to what is meant
or
to happen.
was this all set? Was this already what happened before?
Exactly.
Did the timekeepers make it this way before, and then it's always been this way? And
there were no timekeepers, Steve. It's
but we don't know who marks the stones.
We don't know. We don't know.
So that was the other thing then too. There's a lot of things like that that either they have no real impact on the story, or they don't make sense. And that was the thing, is half the season were spent in Froofy Toofy, France. And
France is
no
weird.
No offense to the French. And yeah, it's just weird at this time. And it just, nothing they do matters. So that whole first half of the season really didn't. There was things in that time period. I mean, during that time they were there that mattered.
Right.
As far as what happens with the story going forward, but as far as the actual mission being there, didn't change anything. And then they end up then having to then go work for Charles Stewart to try and make it now so they can win. So the full first half, they were sabotaging the guy that they're going to now try and make sure wins.
I know.
So how many things did they then on their own sabotage, which actually led to their downfall? And then with the Randall thing too. So we're jumping around here a lot, but the other thing I didn't like, as far as it just didn't make any sense, how I ranted about Randall there forever. And then we were like, well, the argument is that she kills Jack Black, then Frank dies. Yeah,
that's the argument that Claire does.
It turns out he is not the actual father. You are not the father, Jack Randall.
I am not your father. Classic scene.
Classic. It turns out he's not even the dad. So the whole thing that she did, the whole time she was pissed at Jamie too, when she went after him, it all meant nothing. That all meant nothing too.
But she didn't know that, though.
I know she didn't know, but I'm just
saying.
She
didn't know that.
It didn't even mean anything. So the whole storyline just didn't matter. Her motivation didn't matter. I mean, like, I'm
going to put you in a hot seat.
What?
I'm going to put you in a hot seat right now.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Your girlfriend, whom you love.
Yes.
You go back in time, okay?
Yeah.
And your girlfriend's ancestor was just the meanest dude ever. And it was a horrible dude and was just raping kids and horrible stuff, right? And you have the choice to kill him or let him live. And if you kill him, girlfriend going to disappear, never exist. Okay? But if you do kill him, he's probably going to save a lot of trauma in people's lives in that time.
In this scenario, though, have I met just this gorgeous, curvy redhead chick that we just love to fuck each other all the time? Have I?
Yes, you have.
Okay. I'm killing that guy. All right. But in all honesty, now honestly though, I didn't think about it this way. It sounds stupid that I didn't think about it this way, but now you're putting it this way. You're right. I don't. Maybe I wouldn't
do it.
I don't think I could. I think you're actually right. Now I'm just thinking about this just curvy redhead. Just I'm really just picturing like my girlfriend with red hair now is what I'm doing.
Well, that's like maybe that's like
quick.
Have you ever considered being Black Widow for Halloween?
And then every day after.
Yeah.
So I'm honestly I'm seeing your argument though. I obviously couldn't. There's no way I could. You're right.
You know what I mean? But I agree with you. It's frustrating because I had the suspicion once we met Alex Randall. I began having the suspicion that, oh crap, this is going to be Frank's ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
And everything they're doing now. This wasn't confirmed though. Like I just was a thought I had.
Yeah.
It was like maybe they could kill him now, and that would be fine, and Frank would be fine. Well, again, Claire was convinced because on the documents that she saw back in her original time period, it said Jack Wolverton Randall. So it seemed pretty clear that it was Jack Randall.
Let's just cover the Jack Randall here plotline too while we're on the subject.
Yes.
And we'll go back and we'll cover some of the beginning, how it starts too. And some of our thoughts when the actual season started. But since we're on the topic, let's stay with that. As we mentioned, it turns out Jack Randall was not dead. In fact, a door falling on him did not kill him. On
a bunch of cows trampling him, and Murtaugh going to look at him real quick and not slit his throat also didn't kill him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was frustrating. So they go to a party. Claire goes to a party. This is where they start interacting with the high society too, with the French. They meet Mary Louise de la Tour Aravangia. She's this French woman. Turns out she's having an affair with Prince Charles. Did I say that right, everyone?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. At this party, they
Marie too.
Marie. Oopsie.
Did you say Mary?
Yeah. I'm like anytime I try and pronounce from another language, I sound like I'm like Brad Pitt in Inglourious Bastards when he's like Arrivederci. Like I just sound so American and just butcher it. Buongiorno. She runs into one of my favorite characters who I hate, but I love him so much. Duke of Sandringham.
Yes, he's so good.
The actor is too fucking good. I mean, because like he's a character you should just hate, but I love every time he's on screen.
Same. He did such a good job. And he's like very deceitful, and like he's such a politician. Like he's so proper and nice when you're face to face with him, but as soon as it's just him and Claire, they just like scowl at each other and like
he's like,
you're a piece of shit. Like you're
cut the record. You're a foul woman, you know that. I could have you killed.
He's a great actor.
He's awesome. And so she runs into him. And remember, we hate him because he's supporting Jack Randall. And Jack Randall is the guy who raped Jamie in season 1. He has a secretary there with him who turns out to be Alexander Randall. And of course, I'm sure from the way he's very smug and smirk about this, that the Duke of Sandringham found out that Jamie was raped and tortured by Jack Randall. And he just happens to be like, oh, this is, you probably know my buddy here. This is Alexander Randall. And she talks with him and finds out that Jack Randall, Jonathan Wolverton Randall, Captain of the Dragoons, is still alive.
Yep.
The Dragoons. And then from there on, she decides not to tell Jamie because he's been having PTSD. He can't.
Yeah, he's been dealing with that a lot in this season.
And now I understand too the scenes where he would picture Randall during his attempted sex with Claire because of what you told me about how he basically sort of got confused and disoriented during that scene in season 1.
I can't imagine the trauma. I can't.
So I mean, that's just it fucked Jamie up, and he still fucked up at the beginning of the season. Claire decides not to tell Jamie. She didn't want to make him feel bad. Right. Then also, like we said, she didn't want him then to or go the other way and be like, I'm going to kill that guy. And then she lose her husband. Eventually, she also meets Mary Hawkins. I think she actually meets her at this party as well.
And she knows Mary Hawkins also from that same sheet of paper. Mary Hawkins and, according to that piece of paper, Jack Randall had themselves a baby. And that baby had another baby. And that baby had another baby. And had another baby who... Maybe another baby, but then...
Or maybe
Frank
had
Randall.
Several babies, even.
So she recognizes, Mary Hawkins, who, by the way, is my girlfriend's least favorite character on the show.
She is so annoying. No offense to the actor who plays her. I'm sure she probably was told to play it that way. I'm sure it's how the book was or something because it's so specific. A lot of things end up happening during this time period. One of them, she eventually pieces that together. Also, though, Alex and her end up having a little spark at that party.
Right.
And then Claire decides to sabotage that because, again, she's just like, well, this is for my husband that I definitely love, and I'm not going to just make feel bad as soon as I see him again for the first time in 5 years. So then she tries to sabotage that relationship so her husband can exist. Eventually, Mary gets raped by some
Yeah,
guys.
so Claire and Mary were, I don't remember where they were, but they're out on the street at night. And these guys with masks just jump out of nowhere and they grab Claire and they start raping Mary.
They knock out Murtaugh.
They knock out Murtaugh, and Murtaugh was like trying to protect them. That's why he was with them, look after them, but they kind of blindsided him. And they realize who Claire is. By the way, the person who was raping Mary, it's important, had some kind of birthmark, I believe, on his hand.
I don't know if it was him. It might have been. I'm thinking the guy.
Or was one of the guys.
One of the guys had a birthmark.
Had the birthmark that she recognized.
Gonna rape Claire, but he recognized her as Madame Blanche.
La Dame Blanche. And then all of a sudden they all just freak out. La Dame Blanche. And Claire is like, what? La Dame Blanche. And they disperse. And anyway, but you're right. So then they sneak back to this gathering that was being held at Claire and Jamie's.
Alexander
so
tries
they put
to
Mary in the room.
Her.
Yeah. So they put Mary in the room, and Alexander, who has a little crush on her, is very fond of her, goes and tries to comfort her. But as soon as she wakes up, he's the guy standing over her. And by the way, so far my impression of Alexander Randall, very contrary to his brother, seems like a solid dude. Seems like a very stand-up gentleman. And Mary's just reaction. I mean, the last thing she remembers was getting raped, and she passed out. So waking up, she is like in that headspace, and she starts freaking out. And Alex is like, oh, like,
I'm trying to be nice.
So everybody hears the commotion, and they come in, and it looks really bad for Alexander
it looks
Randall.
so bad.
Oh,
he's like
cringy.
On top of her too, on the ground. Everyone who's at this party is high up, high class people. I don't think they're lords, but they're high class.
Well,
rich
the
people.
Duke of Sandringham is there. I think
Duke of Sandringham.
Comte
Comte Saint-Germain.
Saint-Germain Comte. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yep. And so it's a very high profile party. I mean, and this party had its intentions too.
And her
Prince
uncle
Charles
too.
was there, I believe.
Yeah, Prince Charles was there. Her uncle was also there, who's, I think he's like a trader or something. He's someone high ranking up too, who sees this. He sees this go down, and obviously then Alex ends up in prison. And then because of that, Jack Randall ends up coming then to France while Claire and Jamie are at a sort of like horse breeding thing. I think
I remember that.
somewhere fancy. It was really pretty, this place. And that's the one thing about the first half of the show, and I think why it was in the books was just to get all this culture and class that was in France at the time.
By the way, damn, if I could go to France and live like they were living, just like that easily, holy crap. So I mean, so by the way, it was Jamie's cousin, right?
Yes.
Was a very successful businessman in France.
A wine merchant.
I mean, Claire's got a new dress every freaking day, like a nice dress.
They have servants
around. They have servants. They're living like
just
10
whiskey,
times better,
like water.
They're living like 10 times better than they ever were in Scotland.
I know.
And they're just living the life like of luxury, it seems. But they got, they're there for a reason. They're doing what
Jamie
they need to
has
do.
also switched from being a guy who eats grass in a horse barn to playing chess and running a business and just
with like
being
the France's elite.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. But he knew French, by the way, because of his time in the army before, because he fought in France with Ian.
And I think he's probably had French toast too, correct?
Yes, that is confirmed. He's had French toast, and there's rumored he's also had French fries.
I didn't even know that. Is that from the books?
That is from yes. That's a source. I got that from a source.
Yes.
A direct source. I can't say who.
They're at this thing. I think why they got there was because the Duke of Sandringham asked Jamie to help him pick out a horse.
Yes. Oh, that's true. That's true. And I think there's something important to mention before this, because Claire finds out that Blackjack Randall's still living. Mm-hmm. And she tells Murtaugh this because she's kind of freaking out. And Murtaugh, they both agree, like, not to tell Jamie, right?
I think Murtaugh might have wanted to tell him.
But did they not tell him at first?
No, they don't tell him. They don't tell
Right.
Jamie. No.
So they're like, let's not tell Jamie. But it ends up becoming that she needs to tell him, right? And it all comes out eventually. And she is so nervous of Jamie's reaction because he's had so much PTSD from this that she thinks he's going to freak out. It's going to make it worse. And it's so the opposite. Jamie is just like, fuck yeah. Now
great.
I can kill him. That's the best therapy for me. Like that's his accurate reaction. He's like actually excited because he's like, now I have the chance in my life to take out this guy. Which is I wasn't expecting that. I was nervous too. Like when she was telling him, I was like, oh no, I don't want more trauma for him. And so then I just wanted to mention that. So Jamie's actually looking forward to the next time he meets Blackjack Randall, which is at this thing that they were invited to help pick out a horse. And
we talked about it too. During our season 1 talk. Hate this character, but the actor, I mean, just does it so well. I mean, like when I watched
Randall,
Blackjack Randall,
Tobias Menzies, yeah.
When I was watching this show, I mean, I don't think I've ever had as much dread when a character came on screen as when his does, because he could fuck you up physically, mentally, all ways around.
I think that's what gets it for me is his psychological attacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's very, very manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
Like going back to season 1, he really makes you believe he's going to be good at one point. And then he just goes full evil, like 100% evil. And he's so good at like playing that part. And when he shows up at this thing, it's pretty like, whoa, holy crap. I did not expect you to be there.
And I'm instantly terrified. Even though she's in a public place, I'm just like, they could do anything. There's somehow he could order troops or something. I'm just like, this is not good. Anytime I see him, I'm just instantly full of dread for my characters that are around him.
I know.
It's like, oh my God, no.
Yeah. So she comes up to him and, oh man, is it like, I was like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, holy crap. I was thinking like they'd go back to Scotland and he'd be there or something, but he's there.
I feel like his reaction to is how a lot of fans were. He's just like looks at her like,
yeah,
oh shit.
Yeah, his reaction is shocked too. Because he didn't expect to see Claire Bear there.
Yeah, in Paris.
In Paris at this fancy gathering with all the elite.
Yeah.
So she comes over and starts talking to them. And also the king, who we're going to talk about the king in a second, because he had a fantastic intro to this show.
Oh, yes. Amazing.
The king absolutely roasts him.
It was so great.
The king comes over and is just like...
King Louis the XV, I think it is. XV?
King Louis the 15th.
King Louis.
Louis the 15th.
Lewis, King Louis.
Okay. He comes over and just starts embarrassing this dude. Straight up, like
great. It's amazing.
And Blackjack Randall is just trying to be like proper and everything, and then Jamie, like after that whole trolling sesh from the king, Jamie like pulls Blackjack Randall aside, and Claire's like far away, and he like you can see him whispering something in his ear, and we can't hear what they're saying. And they walk away, but Jamie's like not even like freaking phased. Like you'd think Jamie would like be scared because of what this guy did to him, you know. Jamie's just because I think Jamie's confident in himself from a physical standpoint too. Like in a 1v1, like when fair like even ground, Jamie's like I could totally mess this dude up, but not like when I'm chained to a wall.
Yeah, when he hasn't been tortured for 10 hours already, and then on the run from the British before that and everything. Yeah. So
but I think he that's when he challenges him to a duel, right?
Yeah, he challenges him to a duel, and that's when Claire finds out. She reports him then, and ends up getting Frank put in jail, or not Frank,
Jack. Yeah.
Jack put in jail temporarily because
surprised she didn't try to get Frank put in jail. The way she was treating him, she got back.
She pretty much put him in prison. He ends up going to jail then, and so that puts a hold off on the duel, and then that's when she makes Jamie promise to her not to duel Jack because of Frank and all of that.
And she's got to come clean to Jamie too. Yeah, that's when she like, yeah, look, that's his ancestor. 'Cause she hadn't really been open about that part.
I don't think she said that before. No,
she hadn't been open about that part. and I think she was afraid that was going to upset Jamie. And Jamie is upset that Claire's asking him not to kill Blackjack Randall. You know, because
the guy who raped him for like days.
Yeah, he's upset, but he understands.
Well, he agrees to it.
He agrees. I think he sees where she's coming from, but he's also like, I don't owe Frank anything.
Yeah,
I don't know Frank.
And then
I see Claire's side though.
Yeah, I've come around. I'm still frustrated though, and
it frustrates me too, especially kind of at this point having the suspicion that Alex is the actual ancestor.
I didn't have that suspicion. I was just
I think when Blackjack showed up again, I think I started thinking, oh, maybe it is Jack Randall who is the dad. Maybe he like takes Mary by force or something. I don't know. Maybe he does something devious. Or we had met this character Fergus.
Yes.
By the way, this kid who was a thief on the streets, and Jamie actually used him, befriended him, intercept things for Prince Charles and to try
and learn more and to sabotage it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this kid has basically become like a surrogate son for them. He's pretty much become a son.
Yeah. Claire and Jamie end up really caring about him and taking care of him, which is really cool. And Murtaugh too, kind of like the rough uncle. Like, what happens is Jamie had agreed not to duel, and Jamie and Fergus go into this sort of
it's the brothel where he always meets Charles at.
Yes,
and he's gonna go deliver a message or something there with him for their mission there to sabotage the Jacobite rebellion. And all we see is Fergus walk into a room, and he picks up, and it's like lavender. I think even I'm just like, oh no,
yeah.
You see a red coat too.
You know whose room he's in.
Oh man. And then so we see that, and then we eventually see that Jamie has just left a note to Claire saying, sorry, had to go duel Jack Black here.
Yeah. Is it then that we see him come in, Blackjack saying, you're not what I ordered, but you'll do?
I think so, maybe.
And that's all we see at that point, I think.
No, I don't even think we see.
We don't see that yet?
Maybe we do. I don't know. But that's all we see. If that's what we see, that's all we see at the point. I put it 2 and 2 together easily. I was like, something bad happened to Fergus in that room there.
Yeah, really kind of fucking and you knew it was Blackjack just by the lavender and the coat.
Oh, yeah. Even if it was just the coat, I would have been like, that's it. Jamie, of course, does not leave any rationale why he's doing this. He just said sorry. He wrote a note and everything, though. Like, he went home, wrote a note, and then went out. Like, he could have wrote.
How many words does this say? Blackjack tried to rape Fergus. 5 words he could have written, and Claire could have been like, okay,
that makes sense.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
Or not tried to. Blackjack raped Fergus. There are 3 words. Claire, by the way, Claire had been kind of spending her days helping with, was it smallpox that was going through?
Well, there was a bunch of diseases. She was helping at this hospital.
Disease. So, yeah, and she's immune to it all, so she's perfect to help because she's been vaccinated and everything, and she meets this awesome nun.
She's been working at a pro bono clinic with
a pro bono clinic, yeah.
Mother Hildegard,
who is a pretty awesome character as well. She's very intelligent in the ways of healing for the time, almost to the point where she can like keep up with Claire, which is pretty impressive.
But hold on.
Claire knows all this modern medicine.
Her dog, though, can smell an infection in a human being and point to it.
Yes, which is awesome.
Bhutan, I think his name is.
That's where she's been spending her days. So she comes back, sees this note, and that Jamie, and by the way, Claire's still pretty pregnant at this point. Jamie went to duel, and she is so upset. She just frickin' had the agreement that he wasn't going to duel this guy to save Frank's life, and now Jamie did it. So she can't even see any reason why he would, other than that he just betrayed her. So she's very upset. She tries to go to the duel to stop it from happening, save Frank's life. And this is one of my favorite parts.
This is truly, I love this part. They don't really ever allude to it again, though. They don't ever.
No, they don't.
I wish they did.
Yeah. But we come and there's a big gathering, and they're out in kind of the countryside away from things because dueling is illegal at this point. You're not allowed to do it here. And Jamie and Blackjack are having a freaking sword fight. Pretty awesome. They show a good bit of it. Fairly even matched, I would say. Obviously, they've had different training, but a lot of experience, both of them.
I think Jamie's definitely the one who's like winning most of the time.
Most of the time. And he's got more passion into it. I mean, especially now that what happened to Fergus,
Oh my God. Yeah.
And Jamie's like, you are never going to rape another thing again, at least with your wiener, because here, boom. He stabs him. He stabs this guy.
That was great.
It was one of the most satisfying moments so far in the show. He could have killed him. He could have killed him. And I wish he did, but it was almost better that he just like stabbed his genitals.
Mm-hmm. As a man, I normally am very uncomfortable with the genital violence, but this one, this one I was like, yeah! When it happened, I was like, yes!
I was like, oh yeah!
The end of an era, They never allude to that again. He's never like, well, he was gonna try and rape me, but his dick was cut off. Like, like I wish something like that would have happened. Like he just has like Claire in the room, like here it comes, and then.
Yes.
And
this kids is why you should always wear steel-plated cups when going into battle.
I think fencing. I think they do wear cups, even like without even real swords.
I wore a cup in all sports I played. I wasn't messing around.
I didn't for football,
especially hockey. In hockey, like you take block shots, hockey pucks. Like it was part of my job.
Well, all of your
and you could easily
sports.
take one to the nuts.
All of your sports had balls flying. Randall, I guess, never saw a duel that ended that way before.
Yep.
And they both go to jail. And that's
yes.
Eventually, then, what happens is, continuing with the Randall storyline, they're back in Scotland. She ends up running into Mary, who's taking care of Alex, who they alluded to her earlier was unwell. He had some sort of respiratory disease. I
think that's an important point we make too, because this is part of the Randall storyline. We kind of left Alex in jail back in France because of it looked like he was raping Mary.
Yeah.
Mary totally came clean. She realized that she kind of made it look bad, and Mary wrote, that's not what happened, and wrote a letter, and he was released too. And then they kind of fell in love, Mary and Alex.
Yeah.
But you're right. Alex got sick back in Scotland.
And it looks like he's pretty bad. Claire comes in to check him out, and he's definitely about to die.
Yeah. And it's actually Blackjack Randall who seeks Claire's help for this, which is crazy. And meanwhile, by the way, there's a lot of Scottish, the uprisings happening. They're getting men. There's, planning all these attacks. And I think this is actually for the Battle of Culloden, the information she gets.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, she's trying to avoid the battle still. So she gets information from him. She basically is like, I'll help your brother. In exchange, you have to tell me where the British troops are and your plans and everything. And this actually shows Blackjack Randall actually does love his brother because he's willing to give that information. And Claire's thinking to herself, okay, this is great. This is how we can avoid the big Battle of Culloden if we do like an ambush attack and just stop it from happening. This will be the alternate. Blackjack is like kind of freaking out that his brother's dying. Claire's trying to help. Claire does everything she can.
But he dies.
He dies.
But before he dies, he makes his wife Mary and his brother Jack get married. So that
because Mary's pregnant, by the way.
Mary's pregnant.
With Alex's child.
I think the child's name is... Well, I don't know if I'll say it right. It's Denys. Dennis? It's his son. Dennis. Who is then leads to be the ancestor of Frank Randall. So
what's important is that the reason why he wants his brother to marry Mary is because basically without Alex, and if he just left Mary to go on her own, she would probably be poor. The kid would have no status. But if she married Blackjack Randall,
Captain of the
Dragoons, this kid would have a lot of status. He'd have a name. He'd be able to make something of himself. He'd have a good life. And so that's why Alex on his deathbed is demanding this happen. And Jack Randall is just like, no. He's just, but he ends up doing it.
Yeah, Claire convinces him. And I think why she's okay with it is because she knows that he's supposed to die at Culloden like tomorrow. So she's like, yeah, go ahead, marry her. Go, absolutely.
Yeah, and as long as she has been married, even if he dies, she'll have status. She'll have like land. She'll have money.
Yeah.
And the kid will be able to thrive. Yeah. So he does it, and something very interesting as his brother's dying happens.
Jesus.
Oh my freaking God! Because I was like, we're seeing a side of Jack Randall we haven't seen, like a loving side for his brother.
He's been on his best
for his
behavior.
brother, and that must have led to a lot of pent up rage, because like I don't know if it's like the moment after his brother's last breath or like right before
pretty
it.
soon. He's not even cold yet. His body's not even cold.
And Claire and Mary are standing there. Murtaugh maybe too.
No,
Murtaugh's been around, by the way.
No, Murtaugh's not.
Well, Murtaugh did witness the wedding between Mary and Blackjack. So Murtaugh's not in the room when this happens, but he jumps on his brother's dying corpse and he just starts punching it and brutally punching. Like, what?
I see. Again, that is just freaking bananas, but it just fits so well with his character and the fact too that he had said like he had never laid a hand on his brother when Claire was trying to convince him to marry Mary, and she was like, maybe you'll have the same control. He's like, you can't. There's no way. You can you imagine the things I'd do to her? Like, it's probably just
That's
something
true.
who's just had pent up, like you said, just pent up, just this crazy.
Yeah, he's almost like
sadistic.
It's like, you don't want her around me. Like,
yeah.
He's almost doing it like, I can't control these impulses and I don't want her to have a shitty time, so let's not do it this way. Which is like, okay, good on you.
I guess.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But don't forget, the date that Claire told Jack Randall in season 1 about his death is coming right up. And I think that's on his mind. He does his bro a solid before he smacks the shit out of him. Smacks him. And marries his wife.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
But that's the end of then the Randall storyline. We cover a lot of other ones in there too. But briefly, let's touch on some more of the stuff that happens in France before we jump all the way to Scotland. So when the show first started too, I thought I had missed an episode between seasons.
Oh, me too. I called you because you watched it before me, and I was like, "Yo, is a season missing or something? What's going on?"
Yeah, it's because she's back in the 1940s now.
That's how it starts.
And it's just like, what? And she ends up asking who won the Battle of Culloden. The guy's like the British. And that's when she goes back to Frank and she has Jamie's kid with her and everything. And then that's when I start to figure out like, oh, like she must have come back after they got to France at some point then.
Yeah, I was like,
now she has the baby. But I was a little confused at first.
I was confused. Well, I was confused too because something else happens in France at one point too. And
oh yeah, well that then when that happened, Claire ends up having a miscarriage during the duel. And she was bleeding like the night before when she was helping out the
but the stress of the duel.
Hospital. But that's what
the stress of the duel. Yeah. And
well, I was like, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, well, how is she pregnant now?
Yeah.
If she lost a child then, but this is after that. So I was a little confused too.
A lot of confusion, and it ends up becoming very clear.
Pretty much pick up then right where season 1 ended, where on
they're
the
just
boat,
getting to France. Yeah.
Landed France. It turns out another boat there just had a guy come off and he has smallpox. Like you said, Claire is vaccinated, so she can't get it.
Or very early on, too, they meet their, like, mortal enemy in France. Saint-Germain. Comte Saint-Germain.
Comte Saint-Germain.
Mm-hmm.
If it sounds like we're pronouncing Count wrong, well, there must be something wrong with your ears.
Comte. With an M and an E at the end.
Yes.
You dirty people. You Wow. Anyway, this fucking cunt is such like oh. He's upset because his shipment just got destroyed
because of smallpox.
Yeah.
And he's just a constant, like you said, they're a rival there.
Yeah.
He ends up even trying to poison Claire later on, but it turns out
she had met this what's the guy's name? Master Raymond.
Yes.
Who's a pretty awesome character, but he's like a healer of the time, an apothecary, and Claire befriends him because they're on the same level. Like they get herbs, you know. They
future medicine stuff.
Yeah, they know.
He seems magical too. This master.
He does seem like very magical.
He's like roll the bones, and the bones they show things. Mm-hmm. And he seems like he knows she's from the future. He says like a line, like along those lines, like from other times, even or something like. I think he has like a dinosaur bone.
He's a believer. He mentioned something about the certain like thing people use for poison that buy from his shop and stuff, and that like Claire. You know, Jamie's playing chess and Claire's just kind of lurking around while he's playing chess, just getting turnt. And she drinks her drink and she like can smell whatever that thing is that Master Raymond had told her is used for poison there. Mm-hmm. And she's like, shit, I just got poison. Luckily, Claire knows how to, you know.
But it was he only gives out fake poisons though. When people order a poison, he gives out this specific fake one.
Yeah, it's a fake one, but she knows that's what he gives out.
Yeah.
Master Raymond, I think it was Master Raymond, gave Claire this necklace.
After she got poisoned, I think.
That was after she got poisoned. And the necklace is white, but it turns black in the presence of poison. Mm-hmm. Right,
so
which
now she'll know.
Pretty cool. So now she'll know. So she wears that all the time.
Eventually, too, Mary, when she gets raped and stuff, like I'm instantly thinking that's Count Sanjiman. He's at that dinner.
Yeah.
And
and the same thing, they like immediately accuse him of poisoning her, and he's just like, no, wasn't me. But it's like, I bet it was him, you know.
It was definitely him.
But he's denying it, and you know, we do find out that it was him that tried to poison her.
But
we do find out it wasn't him who did the rape.
What he did was he hired men from the Duke of Sandringham to do the deed.
Oh yeah.
We eventually find that. Okay. We find that out from the Duke of Sandringham. But so eventually, though, there's this trial when Claire's trying to get Jamie out of jail for dueling.
Yeah. So Jamie's in jail.
Jack Black.
Oh, by the way, King Louis XV. We meet him taking a massive public dump. Like, what the hell? What's going on here?
Around waiting, like
it's like my worst nightmare. Like, just 50 people in a circle around me while I'm just like ripping it. You know what I mean?
He was
like,
trying.
I have to take a dump at work. You know what I do? I turn the radio up a little bit. I go and I turn the fan on. I like. I try to keep it silent, and this dude's just like, everybody watch me.
Audience, please.
Yes.
It was like a thing, like for all the these other elites too. It's not like if you were just like watching like a bunch of like I don't know vagrants watching another guy shit in an alley. It'd be like, all right, that makes sense. You know,
gotta have these like shocking things that just like pop up on the screen. In season 1, it was the breastfeeding into the jug thing, and then they just cut to, and then this one is just cutting to this guy just. But the point I want to make is the King Louis. Then he gets all done up and he's wearing his weird French stuff, and he is like very attracted to Claire. I mean, Claire is, again, you know, she's still one of the most beautiful women of her time. And he just is. I think to every female though, he's like very flirtatious with. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of his character.
The girl he has at that party too with him has like her nipples pierced through with this dress.
She's like wearing a dress, like her boobs hanging out, and like he's a very like sexual type of dude. Like he's you know. Anyway, so he's flirting with her, and then when Jamie's put in prison for dueling later, Claire will do anything to get him out. And she kind of has to stoop to that level, unfortunately, that she's actually going to be willing to do whatever it takes to get him out. So she goes there all looking good to be flirtatious. She's flirting with him, and he's like flirting back at this point, and that's when he's like, hold on, I want to show you something. And he opens up like a secret door. This is a pretty cool part.
Yeah.
Goes into this like weird culty type room, this like demonic type room. And he brings out, Saint Germain and Master Raymond, who had disappeared at this point because I think King Louis had like set out like anybody who's practicing magic or whatever who was suspected of it is being,
will be
so
hung.
he had to run away, but I guess he got
He got
they
caught.
captured him.
Yeah, this is where then Count Saint-Germain ends up then admitting to poisoning her. And he's like, she doesn't die from poison, so she's a witch. And she's like, I'm a good witch.
I'm La Dame Blanche.
Madame Blanche.
And all the French people are like, ooh. And what does King Louis ask of her, though? Like, you need to tell me which of these ones are...
Yeah, he was going to have some sort of trial or something.
It's a trial. I can't remember. They bring the snake out, and they're like, if you put your hand in here and the snake doesn't bite you, you're good. If it does, you'll die in a very painful death in a couple minutes here.
And she's like, wait, I got something better.
Right.
Let's use the poison that doesn't actually kill people, but it looks like it is attacking you.
Yeah, because she even as much as Saint Germain is, as much as he's been like awful to her and tried, she thinks she tried to have her raped and poison her, she still like can't bring herself to kill him, because she could very easily just be like, it's him, he's the one that should be killed,
And you want him to get killed as the
you want
audience.
him to. And she really doesn't want Master Raymond to get killed either.
No, I don't want him.
She likes him, right? So anyway, she goes and she's like, if we give them both this poison, whoever is innocent will live and the other will die. And she knows in her head that they'll both live. Everybody will be happy. Raymond takes the poison, keels over, but is okay.
And I remember they showed it from like a very low angle too, and I was like, oh, that was odd. Maybe that was just like a DOP choice, like a cinematography kind of thing.
But as the glass of poison is passed back to her, and she hands it over to Saint Germain, who she had a conversation about her necklace with earlier, by the way. Her necklace, her white necklace, turns black, which Saint Germain, Master Raymond, and Claire they all realize that this is actually poison. This is a pretty awesome moment.
That was,
and I feel Saint Germain is like, at
the time,
why?
The time, I felt bad for him because again, we didn't know that he had hired those guys that ended up raping Mary at the time. We had only known that he had tried and failed to poison Claire.
And it was one of those things in the show that it was like suspicious, like, oh, I bet they're just making us think it was him.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? Screw it. Downs that thing, dies. King's happy. He's like, wow, this actually made Claire look actually magic,
Mm-hmm.
But we find out that it was Raymond had done a sleight of hand. He took some of his extra poison that he keeps on him for this kind of situation. He did a sleight of hand as he handed the thing back to Claire with poison, and that's why pretty dramatic moment. I like the thing with the necklace, how it turned black. That was pretty awesome.
And then you're like, all right, well, that's the deal then, because he said, I will let him go if you do this thing. And you're like, all right, that was the thing. You said, come and do this thing. And then he goes in there. He's like, well, we still have to have sex.
Oh, yeah.
So
Claire just lets him do it. And it's kind of frustrating. It's like, I don't like that.
It's like you said, do a thing. And that was the thing. That was your one thing, King Louis.
Thing. But to get her husband out of jail, she just submits. And takes like 2 seconds, though. And she's done.
And like when she's done too, she's just like, all like prim and proper, and like, you have a good day, and you as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed. Yeah, Jamie gets out,
and that's pretty much after that.
Yeah.
They're like, fuck this shit. Let's go back to Scotland.
Let's go back to Scotland. Oh, France is weird, man. Like, what the hell? But one thing I want to mention too, a couple things about France. First of all, we mentioned the miscarriage, but the scene after Claire's miscarriage. Jamie's not around. Jamie's in prison.
Mhm.
She's by herself, except Mother Hildegard's there. Marie Louise, I think, comes and because she kind of befriended her. As weird as Marie Louise was, getting waxed at the beginning, and but she was a friend. And by the way,
That
Marie
waxing
Louise
was
is
hilarious.
pregnant. Yeah, Marie Louise is pregnant with Prince Charles' baby, which is another juicy detail that.
Another juicy bit of gossip for you.
Yeah, a little piece of gossip, but it wasn't supposed to be his baby. And they try using that to like dissuade him from doing the Jacobite rebellion.
But none of it works.
They try everything. So anyway, Claire has just lost a child. She wakes up, she feels her belly's gone, and she's told that the child is in heaven now and is an angel now or something. Mother Hildegard actually brings the child's body to Claire. And Claire sits there like all day, smiling, singing to the baby, kissing the baby, and it's just tear-jerking. It's just it's difficult to watch, but it's amazing acting by Katrina Balfe. I mean, just thinking about it now, I'm getting like a little bit emotional. Especially the moment when Mother Hildegard and Marie Louise say, "We have to take the baby away. She has to move on." And I think Marie Louise comes up to take it from her, and it's just her giving the baby away. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
They ended up giving the baby a name too and burying it, which was against religion, but they did it anyways for her, which was nice.
Yeah.
Also, too, she was gonna die from like an infection.
Yeah.
But Master Raymond used magic, like
he came in, and apparently
magic.
A lot of people, including some of the king's wives, I believe, actually died from that same infection after childbirth in real life.
Oh,
so that was a very common thing at that time period, kind of an afterbirth infection. But yeah, Master Raymond just freaking Assassin's Creed stealth mode coming in. I mean, like freaking Dobby coming into the infirmary and Chamber of Secrets.
But he fingers her and he cures her. So I mean, that was like, and,
yeah.
But he used magic though, which was kind of odd because most of the show, other than stones, has been all science-based stuff. And then here we go. Here's some actual fantasy that isn't the stones.
Yeah.
And he wasn't.
There was an explanation for that one. I thought he just snuck in and
he literally he rubbed his hands over and he honestly fingered her, and that's what like cured her from the inside, and he left.
Claire's by herself with this. She still thinks Jamie had betrayed her. She's so upset. Life sucks right now. I mean, it sucks. She goes, Jamie gets out eventually, and she finally finds out. She's really mad at him for betraying, but she finds out that Jamie decided to actually duel because he caught Blackjack Randall raping Fergus. And she's like, all right. And she's still mad. She's still mad, but it kind of like, I get it now. You kind of had to do that. You know what I'm saying?
At this point, like, how much? How many times does this guy have to do something?
Oh, the only other thing is Murtaugh and there was a whole thing where Murtaugh had faked a robbery to make Jamie look good in front of Saint Germain. Murtaugh and Fergus actually go to deliver some alcohol. They go on like a voyage, and they kind of leave the show for a little bit, and they meet them back in Scotland later on.
Yeah,
they needed to kind of get out of the picture for a little bit.
So, like we said, none of the things happened with Bonnie Prince Charles worked out.
Yeah. First half of the France stuff was a little slow. Second half was pretty damn interesting.
Yeah,
that's when the show started rolling. It was pretty awesome.
I really liked from that first half there. I really liked Jamie's recovery mentally, and we touched on it some in season 1. Not that I'm like, we need more men in mental health or anything, but I think women being raped is pretty prevalent in people's minds and stuff like that and how they deal with it. But it was pretty cool for me to see then this guy, because I was like, how is this guy going to come back? And like, is he going to be just a wimp forever? But he comes back and he comes back as a manly dude again. He challenges this guy to a duel. He cuts off his wiener. He eventually becomes a commander.
He's checking all the boxes. I mean,
so it was really cool for me seeing him recover there with that. That was that's the part I really liked. I was really frustrated with Claire because I felt like she was just disagreeing with Jamie and just doing the complete opposite of what he wanted, and then just turning off everything he wanted to do. Like she was because
Jamie was mad that she was going and helping the sick too. Like,
well,
he's like, that is not the prerogative. He's like,
that time I was frustrated with him, but I could tell that was still like him being frustrated with his feeling of inadequacy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One thing though with Jamie too, that sort of pissed me off and was a little frustrated, but he ended up like 69ing with some girl from the brothel.
Yeah, what the hell?
And I was like, what? Yeah. And he's like, no, this is a good thing, Claire.
Yeah.
And she's like, what?
He's like, I didn't go any further, but like, I felt so alive after you told me Blackjack was alive.
So, I mean, I guess that was like part of his recovery, like coming back, that he had like sexual desire again, you know, and they end up having sex later and stuff too. And like, so we didn't get a lot of sex the first half of the season too, which was kind of disappointing, you know. And also too, who starts for me, I loved him in season 1, but who starts to come out as a top-notch bro is Murtaugh.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And he is so mad at himself for not protecting Claire and Mary when they got raped too. He really feels guilty about it. Remember that for later, toward the end of the season. But he is a bro in France. He's a bodyguard, and they end up confessing it all to him. And he's just like, obviously, I'm going to believe that. You keep forgetting that we're in 17, whatever, and we are like, we believe shit here. We just know, like,
he literally says, you should have told me that before, and punches him.
I know.
He's like, all right, let's get on with it. And Jamie's like,
let's
sounds
go.
Good.
Like, why don't you just tell me?
And that's like such a guy way too. It's just like, I mean, we don't like hit each other every time, but it's just like, oh, all right,
you
well,
asshole.
Good.
Yeah,
thank you for finally just telling me. Yeah, you asshole. That's like what we say. Yeah, so you should just told me, asshole, and then we're good.
Yeah. So anyway, so Murtaugh's a bro, man.
He's good. And let's just get on it. Let's just talk about it to the Duke of Sandringham, like she said.
Yes. Okay.
Claire eventually she recognizes that the Duke of Sandringham. She ends up with the Duke of Sandringham after the Jacobites have to go on the run.
Yeah.
She ends up at his place. Mary also happens to be there. One of Duke of Sandringham's servants is a guy who has a birthmark on his hand. And at the time,
birthmark.
Yeah. At the time, the Duke of Sandringham's trying to set up this trap to get Jamie so he can get back in good graces with the English, the British military, because he was aiding the Jacobites. What ends up happening is then she puts that together. She's like, all right, can't trust this guy. Tries to get a letter to Jamie. He tells her that it was him that was hired by Count Saint-Germain. And you're like, all right, good. I don't feel bad. He was killed now. But it was also his idea to have the girls raped because he wanted them killed. And he's like, no. Let's be nice. Just rape him.
Yeah.
He's a bad dude.
Yes.
Mary ends up coming around to and hearing him like talk with Claire about this. Jamie and Murtaugh end up finding the place, sneaking in without getting captured. Mary ends up killing the guy with the birthmark, the henchman, stabbing him.
Yeah, stabs him.
And then the Duke of Sandringham is like just walking away from this, and Murtaugh, who like just walked in the door and heard all of this, and he's just like, "This is my main quest," and just
this is my moment.
His objective.
This is my moment to shine.
This was amazing.
Oh,
this was.
And by the way, Duke of Sandringham, he really went crazy here. He really lost his head. He
This was my favorite kill from the show. This was my hands down. And there's so many other characters I wish were my favorite kill, but this was my most. I didn't know that this was going to be my most satisfying. Like until it happened, just grabs him by the hair, starts hacking at his neck with an axe, picks up his head, lays it at Claire and Mary's feet like a good dog, and he's like, "Here, I made a promise that I would avenge your injustice that happened to you, and I lay it at your feet right here." And I was just like, "Yeah!"
Oh my God, how satisfying.
That was
so
amazing.
satisfying. Great moment. Fantastic moment there.
Oh my God. That like sealed it. The whole time I was like, I love Murtaugh. Like when he was messing around with the maid, with all that, the other bro stuff with Jamie. And then, but that one, I was just like, you're my favorite now. You are hands down the best, dude. You are hands down my fave.
Duke of Sandringham's dead now. It's sad that the character's not in the show. He was a really exciting character.
I love
really
this character.
Made the show really fun. But really great death. And I don't know if he's gonna pull through. You know, at the time I was like, maybe he'll be back for season 3. Maybe, you know.
I mean, season 6 is still coming out. I think later.
So he
this
could
year.
be. Yeah, we haven't seen him again, so who knows if he got healed or not. But
we ended France, like we said. They were like, let's get out of here. Let's go to Scotland. Let's actually try and win the war now that we were trying to sabotage this whole time.
Even though they're still trying to find ways not to get to the Battle of Culloden.
Yes.
You know. So they go to Lord Lovett's, who is Jamie's uncle, right?
On the Fraser, no, Mackenzie side, I think.
Fraser side, right?
No, you're right. Fraser side.
I think because he's got kind of a thing with the Mackenzies. Yeah. They're trying to convince him, like, give us men for the rebellion. And then Colum actually shows up and is like, no, you need to not do that. You need to like Colum's a smart dude. I really like Colum. And he's like, this is a doomed mission. So you need to sign that you're not going to join. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're arguing and yada, yada, yada.
Eventually, Jamie is going to sign over Lollybrook to get the men, was the deal they ended up working out. Yeah. But then Claire ends up going back to her Madame Blanche character and telling the whole vision that she had heard from another maid who had told her that she was giving this vision to the guy, but he cut her off.
Lord Lovett is very superstitious and he believes all that stuff.
Yeah, that kind of sways him a little bit, but not really. And then, but then his son stands up and says, "Well, I'm gonna help him out with men." And still, you're like, "Well, nothing happens. He doesn't get any."
Yeah, he's just like, "Sit down and shut up."
I know he's such a.
So he, in front of Colum, he signs the thing. He's like, "We're not gonna join. We're gonna
stay neutral."
And so you think, we're gonna stay neutral. And you think like, well, this sucks. They couldn't get these men. By the way, in this whole thing, Leary's around. And Claire
she's sniffing Jamie's panties again.
I know. But she tries to apologize to Claire. She tries to, make things right, but Claire's just kind of being cold to her until she realizes, okay, maybe we can convince her to convince
the Lord Lovett's
son to join, So she tries that angle. They're leaving. They think they were unable to convince Lord Lovett, and Lord Lovett like rides up and he's like, "Yo, guess what? I'm going to give you my dudes, but my son and I our name, my name's on that paper. So I'm not going to be around, but you can have the men. And that way, if you win, I'm going to come out and say I supported you. But if you lose, it'll look like I stayed out of it." Like, oh, damn. Okay. Pretty cool. And I didn't like him for a lot of the time he was in the show. Mm-hmm. Like, he was making me, I kind of liked the character, but he was making me mad. And then I was like, okay, that dude's pretty awesome right now at this moment. I was like,
it's just great seeing them get the men. And then Jamie ends up taking them and starts training them in the military way that he had learned when he was a French soldier. So again, you're just seeing the confident side of Jamie again. He's coming too. Then we get the bros back too, which was awesome.
Dougal and Rupert and Angus and apparently Willie. Apparently the actor got into another show.
Oh.
So they say he went to the Americas in the show the character and met somebody there and is out of the picture. But in real life, apparently the actor got a big part in another show. I don't know what that is, but and they had to write him out. So anyway, Angus, Rupert, and Dougal are there, and Dougal is like kind of throwing a wrench into Jamie's plans because he's like starting to train people in guerrilla warfare. He's like, we should do it this way. We should, he's got his shirt off all the time. He's just running it. And
I was sweet when they
Jamie and him
with the sword though and stuff. It was literally like right after Jamie made this awesome speech about how you need to move in line and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden they just run down shirtless, covered in like ash,
and they don't know what to do. Jamie's guys are like, what? And so Jamie and Dougal are butting heads on how they should do this,
but Jamie's the one who
stands firm.
Got the men. Jamie's who's got the men. Who's because Dougal is from the Mackenzie clan, and so is Angus and Rupert, and like we said, Cullum is not supporting this, so they're outliers from the
even back to season 1. Dougal was a Jacobite, all for the Jacobite rebellion. So
he was like, hey, I've been a fan since the first season, like you guys are just coming in season 2, like that's not fair.
So they train and they're all that great stuff.
They're always button heads.
Yeah.
Eventually, they end up meeting up with Charles Stewart's army. Oh, and by the way, Charles Stewart, if you didn't know, he is a real historical figure, and he was really the one who led the Jacobites in Scotland. And it wasn't just the Scottish too that made up the Jacobites. That's why it's mostly Scottish Highlanders who wanted sort of freedom from the English rule, which is, even though it's Britain that Scotland is a part of, they wanted to be their own country pretty much again. And they also wanted I think it was a Protestant king on the throne. And that's who Prince Charles' father is. He is a Protestant guy who's in hiding with the Pope, I think it is. Or is it Catholic? I don't know. I forget.
I think you're right.
But anyway, his father's in hiding. So he was a real figure who led the Jacobite army. In history, it did end up actually ending in 1746 at the Battle of Culloden.
He escaped though. Apparently,
he escaped
and went to the Isle of Skye, and he apparently, according to the legend, he disguised himself as a woman to go. So,
and that's what actually the intro song is based off of. The song. They just switched lad and lass with that, and that's actually a song about Bonnie Prince Charlie there.
And I think the actor does a decent job of playing a sort of sniveling character. The sort of like, he's he's pretty annoying at times. Mock me. And he really relies on being advised by others. The actor plays that character well.
Yeah, they end up meeting up with him, and he's just. And how long did it take you before you started noticing he said "mark me" all the time too? I remember, I started, I was like, I think he's gonna say "mark me." I didn't even notice. I was like, he's gonna say "mark me," and he started out a sentence like "mock me, James," and
all the time.
And then I was like, oh, that's a thing he says all the time.
That's his thing.
It was funny.
I have to look that up. I wonder if that's historically. I wonder if
he's always like, "mock me."
Yeah, and somebody just puts a mark on him with a marker every time he says that.
just a going tally on him.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, this is right around the time when they find the spy. Little did I know that this spy would end up being one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yeah.
And we don't know this yet in this season, so I'm not going to talk much about it right now. But he's pretty cool in this moment too. And his name is John Gray, and he's a young British.
Well, I think he even came to try and kill Jamie.
He thought he'd
kill him while he's taking
Red Jamie. Yeah.
But Jamie's like, nope, doesn't work on me.
Yeah, seriously. So he thought he could do it, and they have him held down, and they're trying to get info out of him. And that's when Claire comes in, and she's British, and John Gray doesn't know. He's like, oh, you must be, they must have you captive or something. And so they play off that,
Mhm.
you know? They're like, you better give us the information or we're gonna do her. We're gonna do things to her. They can't think of anything bad. They're just
Jamie's like, I'll
gonna
do the sex with her.
we'll do yeah.
I'll do all of the
We'll
sex.
do those things that you know.
The grown-up stuff. It was
But,
funny, like watching them like play with each other, like is like the
Yeah.
characters too, like oh, like you know it's fake, but then them two trying to act it up.
Yeah, and John Gray's like, no, like you can't do that.
No, not your wife.
He doesn't know, so he's like,
he doesn't know it's his wife.
so he thinks he's doing such an honorable thing by protecting the dignity of this woman,
Mhm.
and he reveals where the British Army is.
And some of their guns too, I
And
think
the
it
guns,
is.
yeah. And he thinks he's doing an awesome thing for this woman. And then Jamie actually doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
He like ties him up for these men to find. And John Gray swears revenge on Jamie, but he's like, I'll give you spared my life, so I'll give you one. But after that, oh boy. Oh, you
Then
don't
I'll
want
get
to
ya.
know what's gonna happen after that.
It's a debt
after
of
that,
honor,
he's like-
though.
He's like, after that's done, you know, then I'm gonna kill you someday.
It's a debt of honor, though.
Yeah. But anyway, John Gray thinks that he did such an awesome thing.
Yeah.
You know, to save this woman. So anyway, I didn't know that he was going to be a character who came back.
They end up
And-
going on this cool night mission where they take out the
yeah.
cannons, and they come back with all the wheels and the axles and stuff, and Claire's like, they still have cannons though.
Yeah.
And he's like, but they can't carry them anywhere now. like they weigh a ton.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that's clever, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome.
And then not long after that, they end up having my favorite episode, I think, of the season. They end up having the Battle of Preston Pans.
Preston Pans.
Thank you.
Preston Pans.
And this was actually a real historical victory for the Jacobites in 1745.
Also, I'll tell you another historical bit about it is they're actually led in through like some farmer's son, some young boy who knows the land, like led them on like the right trail to attack. Like he's like, wait, I know a secret way that we can
real
go
life?
that you won't be seen. That apparently that's based on a true, like that really happened.
Oh, 'cause that
Apparently
happens
there
in
is
the
a
show.
story, and it happens in the show. So apparently that part was actually true. That there was a young boy who showed them like a path that they could take for the battle, just to kind of take them by surprise. Before the battle happened, Dougal has his moment.
Before the we need to talk about this.
So they're trying to figure out, okay, what's their range? Can we?
The British are set up on the other side of this marsh. The British
Yeah.
army, the Redcoats, are set up on the other side of this marsh. They're literally like in vision, in sight of the other
they see
army,
each other.
but they can't fight each other. And they're like, how?
Yeah.
They're like, let's just see if we can go across this marsh, or like, what's the range? If we can take a horse through this marsh, then we know soldiers can get through. If the horse doesn't work, then let's not risk it.
Yeah, exactly. Because if the horse gets stuck and they're in range, they're gonna be sitting ducks.
Mm-hmm.
So Dougal, they're like, who wants to go out there and see if they can reach us with those guns? Looking around. How about you, Dougal? How about you? No, Dougal's like,
He was
I'll
pumped
do it.
for it.
yeah, he was pumped. This was like his moment. This is where he's gonna prove how much of a Jacobite. I'm more Jacobite than you. I'm more Jacobite than you. No, he's gonna prove his worth here, and he takes his horse and he just rides forward.
Old Town Road, I'm gonna ride
Oh, they
till
could-
the British
oh, they
can't
should-
shoot. Gonna
they should
take
put that
my
song.
horse down the
Oh,
old
to
marsh road till the British gonna shoot my
shoot at
ass.
Preston. And he goes, and they're shooting, and it's kind of hitting the ground. And then he gets like to one point, and one shot actually grazes his head
It knocks his hat off.
and knocks his head off. It's like, holy shit.
I love that he just gets up though and sort of like looks at it. You can tell he's a little shaken too, which I thought was like
yeah.
brilliantly played, because
Yes.
he's still badass, because he picks it up and he looks at it and he sort of dusts it off and put it back on. He's like,
Yeah.
and he like calmly, he's like, all right, I guess I'll go back. Like this,
Yeah.
I'm in within range.
It's awesome.
But like he was still like a little shaken as he was doing it. He's like,
Yeah.
like, you could just tell he's like a little shaken. He got knocked off the horse and his horse was getting
He says
stuck.
something after. Yeah.
What's he say? Do you remember?
He says something about shitting his pants after when he gets back. Because he looked all tough and everybody's like, oh, yeah, you're awesome. But he says something like, I shit my pants. So.
Yeah. I love that he just goes out with his arms out like this too on the horse.
God.
That was a great Dougal moment. That was an
Are
awesome.
you not entertained, Outlander fans? Like, seriously, this is awesome.
That was,
Okay,
and this
Dougal,
is again, this half of the
love
season
Dougal.
is just awesome.
I love and hate Dougal. I mean, Dougal's an
Yeah.
interesting character, but I want to love him all the time. And this was a moment I was like, yes, Dougal. So Dougal is ready to fight. And so is everybody else. And that's when, this marshland in between, they kind of realize, okay, it's not a good strategy to go across there. We need to replan. That's when they get the secret passage that this local kid knows.
And that's where the battle of Preston Pans happens. And
They put it into action. And this
Claire
battle,
sets up shop with
oh,
some other women to like get the wounded then when they come in
Mhm.
so they can take care of them. And the guys go out with their
And-
tartans on and shields and swords.
by the way, Murtaugh and Fergus had come back by this point, and they were so happy to see them, especially Fergus, because like Jamie and Claire have really taken him and as a son. So they're so happy that he was okay. And Claire's like, Fergus, you got to stay and help me with this stuff. And he's like, I want to fight. I want to go with the men and fight.
He pulled Neutrid.
He pulled Neutrid. Pretty awesome. So they do. And this battle, one of the best action sequences in the whole show, I gotta say.
And this is just great for any show, I think, because just like running out in the smoke with the slow-mo, I would figure that it would make more sense to wear more clothes during a battle, but like they stripped down even more. Like Jamie always had on like this professional uniform,
They go tribal.
just has like a loose shirt on and a kilt, like
Yes. And it's cool because like the British are like in the, they can't see anything, and like just like they come out of nowhere and just
the Highlander
Killing.
cry, the battle cry,
yes.
which is a real thing they would just yell when they charged. I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
other armies did, but that was like, I guess, pretty synonymous with the Highlanders at the time.
Pretty
It's an
awesome,
awesome battle.
scene.
It's an awesome battle.
Dougal has lost his mind. He's had a great battle. His stats are way up, good numbers. You look at the sabermetrics of the battle. He really, his stab percentage, his accuracy was about 80% and plus. And after the battle, Dougal is like still killing the wounded. Like he's like
Which
diving
you
on
would
them.
do though. You would finish off
Yes.
the wounded though,
Yeah, but like,
but he's enjoying it.
but he even did it to apparently like one of their lieutenants or something, somebody that like Charles did not want him to do it to. He killed.
Well, yeah, remember, and we see that guy too, who was the blacksmith from season 1, who had like rescued Claire
Yeah.
from them.
Yeah, he was a good dude too, and he killed him. So that ends up making Prince Charles angry later on when they get back. But another important thing that happens is Rupert during the battle got slashed by a sword.
Mm-hmm.
I want to mention something too. Before this all battle happens, some of the camaraderie moments. Rupert and Angus, we got a lot of cool moments like by the campfire with them. And there's another couple dudes that we don't really know, and they're talking about how like, all right, man, if I die, you get all my stuff. You get my CDs, you can get my Game Boy, and like Angus and Rupert are like, huh, maybe we should do that too,
Yeah.
And they end up doing it and stuff. And so anyway, so that was just one thing that kind of comes important after the battle.
Some great bros.
Great bro moments. Rupert gets slashed by a sword, and it looks like he's going to be fricked. There's some pretty awesome parts, though, where like Angus saves him. I think he shoots the guy who's like about to actually finish Rupert off.
Mm-hmm.
And then
they show
then,
like a
like-
cannonball lands near him and like knocks him
yeah,
off his
Angus kind of
feet.
gets blasted by a cannonball, but you think like, oh, he didn't get hit by it. He was just like launched by it, at the time. You're like, okay, I think he's going to be okay. And he comes back and he carries Rupert back. Rupert looks like he's going to die. Like I thought Rupert was done.
Yeah, this was a great scene. One, because they're just amping you up with all the bro love you're feeling here with like Angus is like he brings him in and it's
It's
Rupert,
like, save him. Yeah.
but Claire's like, well, like Hippocratic oath here. Like I have to like triage people based on severity and who I'm treating right now. And he's like, Claire, this is Rupert. Do it now. And she's like, okay.
He's like,
all right,
no,
you're right.
yeah, we're not messing around with that, Claire. Like,
so like it was just so great, like seeing the bro love, and like you're like, Rupert is definitely gonna die. That looks bad.
Yeah, and Angus is sitting there, and the more they show him, the more Angus is like kind of going in and out of it a little bit. Like he's like looking down. He's like, huh, is he okay?
Yeah.
But they do a good job of like making you think Rupert's gonna die, and Angus is like sad, and then all of a sudden, like toward the end of it, Angus collapses. He's had internal bleeding.
Yeah.
From that cannonball. And he's the one who ends up dying. And like shortly after he dies, Rupert like wakes up and is okay. Oh, what a twist that was.
That was twist. And he goes over and he takes the sword too, and
yeah.
It was man, that was like I have to say that episode was probably one of my favorite episodes from the whole series. Just the battle, the bro moments, and just that whole misdirect. It was just selling you that the guy with the obvious sword slash is going to die. But meanwhile, it's actually probably what would be more realistically kill you, that you don't see a lot of movies when people get hit by explosions and stuff, is that you get internal bleeding and you die, Right. And that's what did it. So, and then, like you said, Dougal comes in, he just starts just like attacking, because they bring in British men too to heal them. They're just like, we're just going to heal whoever now. The battle's done. We won. Let's just heal whoever. And Dougal just comes in bloodthirsty, raving. And Prince Charles had earlier, after he had walked the marsh with the horse, gave him a hug. And that was just like, for him, that's like us meeting Bernard Cornwall and Bernard Cornwall giving us a hug,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now, like Prince Charles just sees him just behaving like an animal to these other guys, and he's just like I don't want to see you anymore.
Can't have that.
But Jamie ends up
which is like oof to Dougal, because Dougal like almost more than anybody else believes in this cause, and like really believes in Prince Charles. So
he's
kind of heart-wrenching for him
forever.
Yeah, so it's like not good, and I think Jamie kind of saves him and makes him look a little bit better.
He puts him as like a scout, rough rider kind of guy.
Yeah.
So it keeps him in the action too.
Keeps him in the action, yeah.
But now he's away from Jamie, and he won't be interfering with Jamie's command.
Right.
But after this, they end up eventually, they're like, let's go to London. And then, but one thing we keep seeing though, this half, is the two other main advisors and leaders of the army have always been at odds. And now they're both like, let's turn around. Let's not go. And Jamie's just like, we didn't win. We didn't take London before when this happened in Claire's future, in her past. But so let's do it now so that we change the future then, basically. And so that we win. Yeah. And they're like, nah, just don't want to. And so they leave, and like they pretty much put the army on a break. And that's when...
Which is discouraging to the army, too. Yeah.
It's very discouraging. And then I think even Prince Charles wanted to go through with it, but no one else would like, don't want to risk our men. Don't want to... We don't know. It's London, So then that's when Jamie's crew ends up trying to ride back north. They get cut off by British.
Rupert's having a tough second half of the season. I mean...
He just recovered from his sword slash, not even fully.
I don't even really get how he got shot in this, because it looked like he got shot in the back of the head, because they were running away, but it was his eyes. I don't know if they're at an angle. I don't know how that happened, but he got his eye shot though. Yeah.
So now he lost an eye. They're held up in this church. They end up making a deal to let Claire go, and so they can go because she's English. And that's how she ends up with the Duke of Sandringham. And
we talked about that already. That went down.
They end up eventually getting back with the army. The whole Jack Randall thing happens.
Yeah, and that's when Jack Randall had given the position, and they had like a plan where like they were gonna like do that like ambush attack secret attack before the battle. Jamie, it was like a last ditch effort, and for some reason, like Charles
got lost.
I think he got lost, and they abandoned that plan.
Yeah, they got lost in the
just
woods.
And it's just like, again, history keeps, like, it's gonna happen the way it happened.
Destiny
there's
is
nothing they can do. I know, fate is inexorable. It's gonna happen.
Now,
Battle of Culloden is about to happen. They have one other idea. Jamie's like, maybe I kill Prince Charles. I don't want to, but if it's gonna save us all and everything, and then we'll change the attack. All that.
Claire had used this medicine earlier on Colum because he he was dying, and he ended up giving his men then to Jamie, actually, which pissed Dougal off even more. And she had given this medicine to Colum to end his life quicker.
Yeah, Colum showed up ready to die. He had one last request of Jamie, and he wanted Jamie to also kind of watch over Hamish, who was going to take over for the Mackenzie clan, and he wanted Jamie, not Dougal, to be the one to kind of oversee that before it happened. Sort of like Alfred asking Uhtred to, watch over Edward.
Yeah.
And Jamie is like, okay. Yeah. Claire gave Colum something so he could die peacefully, and this way kind of upset me too. Was that Dougal is just so mad at Colum. And he's just like, he yells at him when he says he basically gave it to Jamie and not Dougal. So he's upset. And he goes back to talk to Colum.
He tries to do like a heart to heart,
but he still gets mad at him. He still says some stuff. And
Colum's just
looks
like,
over. He's like, I'm out.
I don't have to listen to this shit. Yeah. What were you saying? Yeah, I'm terrible, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, keep going. What else am I? Okay.
I hate that though. It's like I want them to have a reconciliation.
I know. I wish they had something,
but it just was like a horrible ending for them.
Yeah, there's just nothing good. And then, like we said, then before the Battle of Culloden, then
Dougal overhears.
Dougal ends up overhearing Claire and Jamie saying, "Let's use this same med on Prince Charles. Then he'll die. Yeah. All he has to do is drink something. He'll die. No one will know it's us." But then Dougal hears this, and he's just like, "I'm a Jacobite, bro. Like, what are you saying?
Like, what if you let's say you were in the army, right now, and you overheard somebody on your side say, "Yeah, I'm gonna sell us out. I'm gonna betray everything we've been working toward.
Yeah,
I'm gonna kill our leader. I'm gonna assassinate our leader here." What would you do? So I don't blame Dougal for what he did.
Not at all.
He's just standing up for Jamie can't have that.
Yeah, they fight. And him and Claire do a nice couples thing together. They bring down a knife and kill an uncle together.
I don't like that it ended that way. I was really hoping Dougal was gonna have a triumphant, a cool ending, and I wanted him to fight in the Battle of Culloden. I wanted him to die in the Battle of Culloden. I didn't want him to die, but I wanted him to die like that, and he doesn't even get to fight in that. Oh, that's so frustrating.
That's the greatest tragedy. Is that's where he would have been fine dying, but he has to die before that in a liquor room.
I think Rupert comes in too.
Rupert ends up seeing this, and they're like, "Let's get another one." No, they're like, "No, Rupert, just don't tell anyone. There's a battle coming. Can we at least wait till afterwards?" And Jamie's just like, "Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We'll all be dead. We don't have to worry about it." And
so then they need to, Jamie and Claire, this battle's going to happen. They've tried everything, but they need to do something now. Claire's pregnant again. That now complicates things.
How she was pregnant at the beginning of the show.
And it complicates things because it's she's like, I want to die. I don't want to leave you, but it's well, our daughter needs to grow up in a time and
I think
it's safer there.
He had made her promise that if something happened, that she would go back then to Frank. That might have even been when she made him promise about Jack Randall, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it was at some point he made her say if Culloden happens, and you're gonna have to go back. You promise you'll go back to your man. You have a guy there. He'll take care of you. He loves you, right? You're married. So he's like, this battle's happening. I'm gonna stay. I'm going with my men. Like, that's who I am. I'm going to do what I can. And I'm going to take you back. You've got to go back to the future.
Yep.
It was also, too, another awesome bro moment from Murtaugh. He says, take my men away. And then as they're getting ready for the battle, Murtaugh shows up and he's like, hey, I thought I told you to go away and take the men. He's like, I sent them on their way. They're going to be safe. He's like, I'm not leaving you here, bro. That was sweet. I love that.
That was awesome.
Jamie ends up taking Claire then to the stones. She can hear the buzzing. She's like, don't you hear it? Just come with me. And he's like, I don't hear anything. He even touches the stone. Because I'm like, well, test it out. And like, it was literally like they knew that we were going to say that, because he literally puts a hand right on it. Nothing happens.
Yep.
And he gives her one good redhead bang before he sends her on her way. just right in the moss.
Yes.
But it really it's a touching scene. My girlfriend was crying during this. My Iron girlfriend was just like tearing up.
I know. It
was sad. It was well done. Very well done.
Yeah. We don't see the Battle of Culloden yet. That's all we see. She goes back. In this episode, we also get a lot of future stuff, or like 1968 stuff. Right?
Yep.
And we meet Claire and Jamie's daughter, Brianna. Would we meet her here? We met her.
Yeah, we
maybe not in this episode.
I don't know if it's this episode. We met her throughout. I mean, she's in this episode, though.
Yeah. We find out that Frank is dead. Brianna, is not happy with Claire, her mother, because she was not treating Frank very well. She doesn't understand why. Claire ends up telling Brianna.
Yeah. They're in Scotland because
they're in Scotland.
Reverend Wakefield died. Roger now is a grown-up, the little kid he had adopted that we saw back in season 1.
And he just falls in love with Brianna instantly.
Yeah, it's great chemistry between the two of them.
Yeah, a lot of good chemistry. I like Roger at this point. He's just a nice guy, really good dude.
Yeah. Very reasonable.
Yeah, remember, he was adopted too by the Reverend. So Reverend Wakefield.
Mackenzie.
We find out he's actually Mackenzie. Yeah, so there's still a lot of mystery going on about what happened in this time. Why is Claire still so mad at Frank? Why does Brianna hate her mom? And something very interesting happens in Scotland, though. They find Galus Duncan,
who we thought was burned at the stake in season 1.
Yes.
And so...
Well, she was... Yeah, that's right. We thought she was burned at the stake, but we find her in 1968, so we're thinking, oh, this is before she ended up going back in time.
Yeah, and a lot of people are confused because, what? Huh? Because for Claire and her family and friends, when they travel in time, the 1740s are rolling with the 1940s. It's in sync, I guess. Yeah, the 1750s are with the 1950s. They're it's constantly just 200 years off. So with Duncan, though, she left in 1968. She even said that at the witch trial. She said 1968.
She was inserted into before Claire got there.
Yeah, but she had got there before. So if you're looking at the timeline, she had left after Claire, but she had
wiggity whack.
He had gotten there before her, though.
I just pull out a whiteboard.
really though, I think a lot of people need a visual.
I know, it's kind of confusing to think about.
Galus is still... This is before she ever had met Claire, even though Claire's an old woman now. This is her before Claire had come back in season 1.
Yeah.
So this can be a little tricky there.
Yeah, but anyway, she's like a Scottish patriot. She's having these talks, handing out pamphlets.
Not a Bonnie Prince.
Yes, the Bonnie Prince Charles. And she's a believer in the stones. So, except she believes some things a little bit differently. A little bit more traditional, I guess.
A little more conservative with her stone values, blood sacrifice.
So there's a lot of processing between Brianna and her mom that goes on in this video, but I think she comes to more of an understanding of what happened, and they actually find out that Jamie may have survived the battle.
Mm-hmm. And to what convinces her that the time travel was real, they see
Galus,
right. They see Galus go through the stones after she murdered
killed her husband
on fire. Because she thinks you need a sacrifice to get through, but all you need is a stone. You don't need the sacrifice to make the stone work. You just need a stone.
You need like a gem and a stone. The sacrifice, it doesn't hurt your chances.
It doesn't hurt.
Like
yeah, maybe that's how you go back further in time. Like the more sacrifices you make.
The stone people are like, maybe we should have made like some kind of thing that if they sacrifice somebody, it doesn't go through. Well, we didn't think they were going to kill people to go through. Like, that's not on us. The gods of the stones are just all sitting around a table, just like brainstorming what they can do.
How can we make this better? What we need an update, maybe like a patch to the system here.
She sees that Brianna finally believes her mom because she thought she was crazy at first. They find out Jamie survived the battle. They find his name on a manifest of the prison. Like, oh, shit, he might have survived. Which makes Claire like, I got to go back.
Gotta go back there.
So through all this time, she still loves, like, 20 years or something? Or
yeah, it's been 20 years, too.
And she still wants her Jamie. So
Jamie.
So that's pretty much it. She decides to go back. Season cuts. Man, we tried to make that short, but it's so
but
much to talk about.
It didn't work at all. Oh no!
There's a lot to talk about this season. I feel like maybe the later seasons there's not as much to talk about, and these just first two are just so jam packed,
so dense with plot and motivations and such.
There's the one thing that's not debatable is that the king was not taking a number one. He.
Solid number two.
Solid
so
number two.
Solid.
So glad they cleared that up in this season. No more confusion with the
big plot hole we had with Willie in season 1.
With Willie saying that he went number one, but what?
It wasn't. That wasn't cleared up in this season. I'm hoping maybe future seasons. We're gonna look for clues and signs.
We're hoping. Yeah.
We're gonna give you the breakdown. We want to get to the bottom of this as much as you.
Yeah. Dinafash. Because we will be coming back with the third season recap pretty soon, pretty darn soon. You like it, sumps.
Yeah, like it, sumps.
Yeah.
You great gobs.
You dozy stouts. And you lovely listeners that we really appreciate you checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We've had a lot of fun talking about this show. Steve, anything else you want to say before we sign off here? Okay, thank you for giving me that. And but please check us out on all the social media platforms. We hope you subscribe to the Screen Chronicles. And as we always say here on the Screen Chronicles,
goodbye.
Goodbye.